Um, okay, so it's 1 o'clock. Welcome everyone for joining us on another session of Substance Talk. So we are continuing and finalizing motivational interviewing. Sean, this is our third episode.
Yes, it is indeed. And yeah, we're going to wrap up temporarily on that now. We'll probably revisit the subject later. But yeah, for now, I think we are going to wrap it up with some practical examples today and actually some demonstrations, which I've recorded. And hopefully people will be able to give feedback, criticisms, ideas, and pick up on some of the skills that motivational interviewing needs applying, which you can apply in motivational interviewing.
Yeah, the hope is that everyone can go back to their different workplaces and start incorporating this, but also, funny enough, also in your personal life, motivational interviewing can assist in that.
It can indeed. It can indeed. Right, Dee, so you're going to do a bit of a recap of some of the stuff on motivational interviewing. Is that correct?
Yes. So if guys, you can remember our first episode, we did a challenge on how do you experience change, how easy it is or how difficult it is. Then our second session, we were focusing on the principles, more on the philosophy and what motivational interviewing is about. Now we're going to focus on the practicality, but we also need to recap on what this is all about. So motivational interviewing, the spirit that needs to encompass it is that it needs to be from a partnership approach, collaboration. No one is the main master. We are sharing ideas in hopes to create change. It will require bringing out resources from your client, and they have to come up with the concept that they need change and they want to change, while constantly maintaining a non-judgmental approach that is very accepting of your client. This just creates a platform that your client can feel free, welcomed, and accepted in order to explore themselves even more, while always being compassionate with your client. Then you are put in a position, then you can start incorporating. Sean, can I have the next slide?
Sure.
The skills of motivational interviewing. It's still sort of a counseling. So you still need these skills where you're using open-ended questions to allow your client to explore, constantly affirming your client and reflecting on what they are saying to make sure that you're constantly on the same page, and summarizing. This just ensures that you're all also again on the same understanding of what's happening as you move through the different stages to motivate change. And I think this is where we'll focus most in this current session. It's around the processes that come with motivational interviewing, from the engaging process, focus, evoke, and plan. So Sean will get more into these processes. Sean, over to you.
Yes, hi. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you some examples of some traditional types of approaches, some non-motivational interview, a brief example of a traditional type approach. And this one is actually based on an experience that a couple of people have had that they reported on. So we kind of put the two together to give you that example. Then we've got one of sort of somebody who's perhaps not familiar with motivational interviewing, but maybe slightly familiar with it. And then we've got two examples, one easier sort of situation and one more difficult situation, where we actually apply motivational interviewing, and we also look at the feedback from the actual client themselves and how they felt about it. So I'm going to share these videos with you now, and we'll just watch them. They talk about, each video is between 1 and 7 minutes long. But yeah, let's have a look. Morning, Precious. What are you here for today?
I'm here to see you to talk about my marijuana usage.
Okay, so you use marijuana.
Yeah.
Okay, are you aware of the negative effects of marijuana?
Yes, but it's also good for me.
Okay, then why are you here if it's good for you?
I just want you to tell me how to reduce my intake and guide me through steps.
Hmm. How long have you been smoking marijuana?
Just 5 years.
5 years. How old are you now?
I'm 27.
Okay, so you started when you were 22. Good thing you didn't start younger because it would probably damage your brain. Why did you start smoking marijuana?
I was just with a few friends the first time it happened, and I liked how I felt.
So you're easily manipulated by your peers.
I wouldn't say that. We were just having a party and they seemed to be having more fun and I wanted to have fun the way they were.
And where do you smoke marijuana?
Where do I smoke it?
Yes.
At home, not during work hours, not at work, and
During
at a
work
party.
hours? Where do you go to smoke marijuana during work hours?
No, I have a few friends just 2 blocks from work.
Okay, have you considered rehab?
I don't think my problem is that bad that I need rehab.
Well, it seems pretty bad to me if you're smoking at work every day.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to make an appointment for you to see the rehab. All right.
But I don't want to go to rehab. That's why I came here.
Oh, Precious, this is typical addict behavior in denial. Good morning, Precious. It's nice to see you here. What brings you here today?
So I've had a few problems with my marijuana intake, and I just wanted to seek some advice and help on how to reduce my intake.
No, but marijuana is not very serious. I mean, what's causing you problems with it?
It's because I've been smoking during work hours, and I haven't been delivering on time, and I got a warning for that.
Okay, so you want me to help you?
Yes.
Okay. Well, have you considered cutting down or not smoking during work hours?
That is why I'm here, so you can help me do it, because I've
Okay.
tried and I've failed. So hence I'm here.
Yeah, well, look, I can empathize with that because a lot of people try and fail in reducing their drug use. It's not an easy thing to do at all. Um, you know, probably it's brought about certain brain changes, and you now see that marijuana is something that you need in your life. You get cravings, I would imagine, if you stop. No, this is not easy. I mean, the majority of people never resolve their addictions, so you're going to have to work really hard at this. But I can tell you some techniques and things that you can use to do it. So you'd like me to do that
Yes,
to help you
please.
out? Okay. So Precious, this is going to take a lot of commitment from you, and you need to really take my advice on this because I'm an expert in it, and you'll need to follow this quite strictly, and I expect you to be honest with me. But we know that often it's difficult to be honest with a stranger and with counselors, but I would expect that, and if I feel you're not being honest with you, we may have to introduce some drug testing measures as well at a later stage. But this is just to help you. You understand?
Okay.
Okay. How are you feeling now?
Your approach was softer, but now you're like, you have to do it my way. It's my way or
Correct. My way or the highway. All right. Thanks very much, Precious, for your time. Good morning, Precious. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. I actually don't know why you're here today, but if you want to tell me a little bit about why you're here today, that would be great.
So I've been having a few problems at work. I haven't been meeting my targets on time, and because I think it's due to my usage of marijuana, I've been constantly doing it during work hours and not delivering on time. So I want to see if you could help me reduce my intake or Yeah, I just want to reduce it. I don't want to stop completely.
Okay, that's fine. It seems like though that you're quite keen to reduce it, and you've recognized several consequences around this. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want to reduce it?
I'd say 50% so that I can balance the use. I just want to balance my work life and my personal life. So I'd say 5.
Okay, so you want to reduce it down to a 5. Okay, and at the moment, how would you say you rate it?
Now I'm at a 10.
You're at a 10.
I'm at a 10.
Sure, you're not at an 11.
I could be. I really could be.
Okay, so you think you're at a 10 at the moment. What makes you feel that you're at a 10, and why do you think you need to change your use?
So I found myself, I have to be at work at 8, but I'm usually at home at 8, smoking my joint. And then it's 11, then it's 12, then I get to work late, and then I barely care about what's happening at work.
Okay, and have people complained about this?
Yeah, I got a warning.
Okay, okay, so it sounds like your job's quite important to you.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, what do you think that we can do together to try and help you cut down on this marijuana use? Do you see yourself being able to do that? Do you see yourself being successful at cutting it down?
Well, because I want to, and I'm the one that came to you, I believe that I am capable in a way of actually doing it, and I want you to tell me how to do it.
I think you're definitely capable of doing it. You sound very motivated. You sound like you've got good reasons to do this. Okay, so what do you think I can do to help you with this? What would you like from me to help you?
I think you should just tell me what to do, because I've Googled ways and that
Okay.
did not work for me. And I was like, let me seek professional help and see
Right.
if
So you're
something
looking
can
to me to actually give you some advice around this so we can work together on a plan?
Yes.
All right? You understand that it's not just up to me. I don't have a magic bullet. You know, I'm not here to be able to give you some miraculous cure. It might take some time to do this, but you seem very motivated, and it seems that certainly we can work together in this. Are you happy for me to give you a little bit of advice or possible some direction? It seems that you are.
Yes.
Okay. So what did you try on the internet before? What have you tried?
Well, they said I must just dance around in the evening. It was just these weird voodoo websites that I looked at. That
Okay,
did
so
not work.
there's nothing concrete.
No,
All right.
no scientific evidence of whatever they were doing.
Okay, so let's think about this. How long have you been smoking marijuana?
It's been 5 years now.
Okay. So when you learn something and it becomes a habit, okay, you don't usually manage to stop it immediately. So are you prepared to commit to seeing me maybe once a week so we can do this over the next couple of months?
Yeah, I'm good with habits. I can make that a habit as well.
You can make that a habit as well. But if you're good with habits, hopefully we can replace the marijuana habit with something a bit more useful.
So,
All right. So should we set up an appointment for next week? Okay. But in the meantime, what do you think you could do between now and next week to maybe change one thing about your marijuana use?
I could probably start smoking at 10 instead of 8, I think.
At 10 in the morning.
10 in the morning, at least be at work.
Be at work before your first joint.
Yes.
That should be motivation to get your first joint. You obviously work in a work environment where they don't really punish you or are that concerned about your drug use.
I wouldn't do it necessarily at work, just there's a corner shop there and then I'd do it there.
Okay, and just to check, that is safe. You're not going to get arrested there.
I have friends there, so I
Okay.
think it's moderately
okay.
safe.
All right. I would be concerned if you were putting yourself at risk to get arrested, and maybe we should look at finding a safer space for you to use, because although cannabis is now legal in South Africa, often people do get arrested with it still. And it's difficult to argue with the policeman when you're already been arrested.
That is true.
Okay. So promise me you'll look after yourself in the next week. Try not to get arrested,
How?
and let's get together next week and we can put some things in place. And you've said that you're going to start what time?
At 10,
At 10, not 8.
not at 8.
Okay, let's see if we can achieve that.
Fingers
Great.
crossed. Thank you.
Thanks, Precious. Thanks very much for your time. Okay. So tell me about that experience there. What did you like and what didn't you like? Where did you feel affirmed? Where did you feel that there might be a problem?
Well, when you told me that it's not going to be a magical thing, it won't happen overnight. I felt reassured that, okay, and you also encouraged me to say that I took the first step, and you reminded me and validated that for me. So I was like, okay, so I did the right thing. And then you showed me that, no, it's going to take time, it will be gradual. It won't happen overnight, as I might have expected it to happen that way, but you reassured me that, no, it will take time. And you made me feel safe that, okay, you're not weird, you're not crazy. You did not make me sound like, oh, you smoke marijuana at work. So we appreciated that.
All right. Well, what didn't work for you then?
Well, I was happy with this session.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much for your time and for that.
Okay, so that was Precious's experience of it. I don't know if there are any comments on that or any further questions around it and the techniques used.
There's currently no comments besides the previous one, which Asanda was just spot on with the first two sessions, judgmental towards the clients, even pulling ranks, like I am an expert at this. So yeah.
Correct, yeah. So it's a very top-down approach, not very MI oriented at all. Those in I think the one which was more MI focused, there was a lot of reflection, a lot of confirming what help they wanted, recognizing that they were well motivated, encouraging the self-efficacy, and then ending with a plan as well. So there was the introduction, the establishing of rapport, then the development of the plan, the focus, and then the development of the plan, so that they could go away and do at least one thing. But that's quite an easy example.
Yes, I wanted to say patience is sweet. Let's see something that's more realistic and challenging.
So patience was very well motivated, but we're going to look at one now which has a bit of a twist in it, and which caught me a bit by surprise as well, because these aren't scripted, by the way. They are live interviews with permission from the people. Anyway, so look at this one's quite interesting for me. I'm once again going to share. It caught me a bit by surprise at one stage, as you will see.
Right. Morning, Shanae. How are you today?
I'm fine, thanks.
So, Shanae, tell me what brings you here today? Why are you here?
I was supposed to come. I'm currently a crystal meth user, and I really can't see myself stopping. But because I have kids and it's a baby now, so I feel that I need to, even though I really don't want to.
You say you don't really want to be here today. Who's forced you to be here?
So my mother has forced me to come.
Okay.
She believes that I need help, and she said I need to go.
Okay. So what would the consequences be if you didn't come here today?
Well, if I didn't come here today, she'll probably kick me out.
Okay.
Yeah, and she'll take my kids from me.
Oh, really? So,
yeah.
So that sounds pretty serious to me. How do you feel about that?
I feel very cut up about it, because even though I do drugs, it does not make me a bad person. But stigma that people have towards people that use drugs, they feel that if you use drugs, you're not able to look after your kids. So my mother, has this negative view on people who use drugs. Me being a daughter, it's even worse.
Yes, I understand. So she's probably got a bit of fear there as well, and because she's seen things happen with other people.
I think so. Yes. You know how for instance, TV, how TV paints a picture of people who use drugs. You always see this documentaries and negative side of things, or film shows. You never see positive side of things. People never talk about the positive things of everything's just bad when it comes to drugs. Always bad pictures being painted, bad things being spoken. Yeah, so she has it in her mind.
She's got it in her mind. Has she ever raised any specific examples that relate to your behavior, or is it more just the impression that she gets?
So no, I mean, I don't for myself, I don't believe that I've given her any reason to be concerned, but I think it's more of what she hears. Even going to church, what the preacher preaches in church, what
Okay.
gets spoken, and then she comes on with this,
Okay.
mindset. And also her upbringing, I think.
All right.
Improved up-
Okay. Yeah. So what you said to me earlier was you said that you didn't think you really wanted to stop, but at the same time you're a bit concerned, or you think how did you phrase it? You said you think that maybe because you've got kids, it might be a good idea.
to to stop, or maybe to just not smoke as much. Because for me personally, I quite enjoy it, but it's a problem in the house and it's causing lots of turmoil and arguments, and so I'm just being forced. So it's not a choice I want to make, but it's something I have to do. I've been given an ultimatum.
You've been given an ultimatum. All right. But in a perfect world, you would reduce your use, not reduce your use. You would keep using the same.
In a perfect world, I would not stop. I would
Yeah.
probably reduce my use, but I would not stop because I mean it keeps me energetic. I'm able to take the boys to soccer. I'm able to do a lot more things, and I'm not so tired. I'm just get more things done. Like because I have 3 boys, so I'm able to see to all of them. I'm able to take soccer matches, take them away for walks, take them to the park. And I have enough energy, and frankly, I quite enjoy it.
Okay. So you're saying to me that you feel that without the drug, you maybe wouldn't have the same amount of energy.
Exactly.
You feel that perhaps life would be less rich, and you don't really see a big motivation for stopping. On a scale of 1 to 10, how far are you along that scale to say, actually, maybe it's time to stop?
Okay, so more like a 4.
So
Personally.
that's quite high. I was thinking you were sounding a bit lower than that.
Okay, okay, 3.
Okay.
Let's go. I'll go 3. Quite frankly, I wouldn't want to stop it all, but I mean, like I say, I'm giving an ultimatum.
You've been given an ultimatum. So it's really the ultimatum
That's the driving force that's motivating us. Yes, correct.
Do you have any concerns of yourself about the level of your use? Do you think you're using too much? Do you think you're not using enough? How do you feel about that?
So I see myself as a person who uses drugs really safely. I use it mostly when the kids are asleep. I don't take it when they're awake. Or I take it in the morning, will give me enough energy to last me through the day.
Okay.
I don't think I overdo it because it's not really burning out in my pocket.
Yes.
But yeah,
So tell me about your typical day and how often you use and that kind of thing.
okay, so I use once, maybe twice a day. So I'll use it in the morning,
Yes.
so it'll give me some energy during the day, and then I'll use some during the night once the kids are asleep.
Okay. So are you already tired at that stage when you're using? Tell me about your experience, because I don't.
Okay, so
really know
with
this.
me, I think, okay, yes, it gives me energy, but it also takes me to a safe space when I use crystal meth. I don't know if I'm able to share, but a lot of people look at people who use drugs as bad. For me, if it wasn't for crystal meth, I personally believe I would not be here today.
Okay.
Crystal meth was my safe haven for when my fiance was shot dead, even when my husband and my 2 nephews passed away. The only safe haven I had was crystal meth. It took me out of that sad space. It just completely, it sort of wrapped me in a warm blanket, and I just got an escape. And I firmly believe if it wasn't for crystal meth, like I could say to my friend, I wouldn't be sitting here today. I probably would have taken my life and to deal with depression.
So it sounds like you had a lot of trauma in your life,
Yes,
and that was difficult to deal with.
yes,
And the crystal meth gave you some energy and motivation,
Yes.
and it allows you to be a better mother with your children.
exactly.
Okay. So maybe what we should rather be looking at is how can we help you deal with the trauma? Something that we could work with.
Definitely. I think, yes, definitely.
Okay. Because I really wouldn't want to take away the one coping mechanism that you've got. And it seems that you're framing this very much, the crystal meth, very much as a coping mechanism for dealing with the trauma.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we should concentrate on the trauma and see what else changes in your life.
I think that would be a good start, yes. Because it's, like I said, it was an escape, but at the end of the day, I never really dealt with the trauma. I've been escaping ever since.
Okay. So can I set up an appointment for you to see a trauma-informed therapist or counselor? And would you like that? Would you appreciate that?
I would. Would it take a lot of my time up? Would it be...
Look, ultimately, this is your decision. I understand you've got 2 kids and that, and certainly it would take up no more time than these sessions that you've got planned with me, and we can manage it around your time as well.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, thanks. So let's go and find somebody that will that you're happy with. Right. Thanks, Shana.
Thank you.
So reflecting on that, how did you feel about the approach and that? It was quite a difficult scenario for me to handle, honestly, for a variety of reasons. But how did you feel? What was your experience?
About the approach. I felt your approach was very understanding, not judgmental in any way, and also looking at different elements that could assist me.
Okay. What do you think could have been different? What would have been better in the approach, if you can think about it?
Well, tell you the truth, I think your approach was good, because I mean, you understood what I was saying, you made sense of what I was saying, and I know you were listening to what I was saying because you repeated it back to me, so I know that there was, you understood what I was saying. And yeah, I think your approach was quite well.
Okay. From my personal perspective, I think that I could have, when you threw in the traumas, I actually felt a lot of empathy and understood, and I felt that maybe I became a little bit too complicit in the drug use with you, almost supportive of it. Did you feel that, or did you just feel that I was being quite neutral?
I don't think that you were being too supportive of the drug use. The fact that you made the element of this psychosocial support,
Yes.
that showed that there is a route to take in order for me. Yeah, so that's...
Okay. Thanks very much.
Wow. That's genuinely unscripted, Sean.
Yeah, it was absolutely unscripted, and that so yeah, it was quite a curveball a bit, because I was struggling to understand how I was going to address the drug use issues, because obviously for her was serving a purpose. And then probably where I would have gone with that is then looking at the harm reduction aspects of it, and asking her to maybe monitor her use over a little while, and that kind of thing, because the consequences were quite severe. But when the trauma thing came up, I think it became pretty clear to me that there was a lot of unresolved trauma issues. With her fiance was murdered, her 2 nephews burned to death in her house, young kids, when somebody set the house alight, and yeah, a lot of tragedy, and that needs to be worked through. Yeah. And
I think for me that was challenging with her, is as the conversation was progressing, it did seem like you were being supportive of the substance use. But I think that also allowed for a space for her to now start expressing the trauma, whereby if it was just taken on that position of needing to ensure that I do not seem supportive, that would have just ended up in another debate with her.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact of the matter is that whether we like it or not, and no matter what traditionally has been taught, for some people, drug use is very effective in resolving some of the issues they've got, just like medication is. So particularly people who don't have access to medical services and psychiatric and psychological services. So Thomas Szasz, the anti-psychiatrist, he wrote, he said, we're going to end up with a crazy situation where people will be able to access drugs like heroin and crystal meth for free from government sources eventually. And yet, if you need methylphenidate or Adderall or oxycodone, you're going to have to spend several $1,000s going through doctors and then getting a script for it. And that is what happens often, you know. So when we think about people with ADHD or with narcolepsy or sort of other disorders that can't afford the R1,000 for a psychiatrist or 3 days at the clinic before they get to see a psychiatrist, and they would have been prescribed methylphenidate in this country or Adderall in the United States, you know, perhaps there's a large element of self-medication going on there. And as therapists, you know, you can't deny that. You can't, I think you have to be balanced. And when somebody has expressed the desire to continue using, your responsibility is not to get them to stop using, but to make sure that they keep in contact with you and that they are using as safely as possible, depending on the substance. And most of these substances, the biggest danger is the lack of quality of them and the unknown dose of them. And that's what causes the biggest problems, and the drug mixing, of course. So we've got to be careful around that, and it's pointless alienating people. So summarizing is very useful for people to make sure you're on the same page and that you're hearing them like properly, like you're actually understanding what they're saying. And often there's misinformation or you misunderstand something. So, for example, in the one interview there with Precious, when I said to her, you know, about the levels of wanting to cut down, I didn't actually mean initially the levels of drug. I meant what is the level of motivation that she wants to cut down. But by listening carefully to her and then reflecting afterwards, I was able to determine that actually she was talking about the amount of drug that she wanted. She wanted to cut her drug use by 50%, by 5 out of 10. And you'll notice there that I also introduced some humor into it, because she was talking a lot about how much she wanted to use and how often she was using, which was quite a lot. And then when she said, you know, that she was using at work and that as well, by introducing a little bit of humor at a stage where we already had rapport, I was able to make her maybe think that maybe the drug use is a lot more than most people would be using, even if it's cannabis alone, you know. And just by the way, on the cannabis thing, in South Africa, there's still a lot of arrests every single day for cannabis, even though it is now legal to consume in private spaces. But you don't want to have to get hauled off to the police station or maybe wait for a magistrate to make the decision that you shouldn't have been arrested.
Yeah, I think that would not show people don't have a full understanding of what is the law around that. So perhaps that's why. But Sean, I think, which is something I want to also put on the poll right now, is how do you even start a session like this? You know, and here's a question that's been posed, which is the better question. So let's just get the attendees to respond to this, because I can imagine it becomes a bit tricky on how to start this conversation.
Yep. So if people can choose which they think is the better question,
yeah,
you know, explain why it's a better question.
Yeah, our options is, are you concerned about your drinking, or I understand you have some concerns about your drinking? It feels like it's a trick response though.
Yeah.
And 100% selected, I understand you have some concerns about your drinking.
Okay, so don't know how to see those short answers, but anyway, yeah. So the reason why, should I go ahead and give some answers there? The reason why the second question is better is because the first question is a closed question, and so one of the skills in motivational interviewing is to, in fact, use open questions. And sometimes you want a yes or no, but most of the time that's not what you're looking for. Most of the time you are looking for a conscious, expansion of the question. You want to expand it. You want to. So what you're listening for in people that are ambivalent is you're listening for change talk, and you're listening for the person to give indications and to engage with the process and establish a relationship with the individual. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen again and show you 4 examples of how you can opening up a session and just to discuss very briefly. There. Right. So next slide. So here's step 1. Morning, I need you to please tell me what drugs you're using and why, so I can develop a treatment plan for you. Now, that's very directive. It's got a lot of I words in it. There's no collaboration in it. It's very top down. Morning, I heard you using drugs and I'm concerned because drugs are dangerous and I want to help you stop using them. Now, that's showing some empathy, but there's, once again, very little collaboration in it. And also, you don't know what drugs the person's using necessarily. You don't know whether their use is dangerous, or like with the interview I did with Shanae, whether maybe they're serving some purpose for them. 3, morning, how are you? What brings you here today? Is the shortest version, and usually shorter is better when you're the person who's conducting the session. And then here's one which often happens. Morning, before we can start, can you please help me complete the form? Otherwise, I can't put you into our system. That's not great for building rapport or a relationship with people, especially since those questionnaires are usually yes, no, tick box, name, that kind of exercise. So always I would suggest not bringing out the forms first thing. I think you need to fill them in, but do it a bit more once you've got a bit of a relationship with the individual. And here's another example of at the beginning of it. So somebody said, yes, I tested positive, the drug test at work, but I don't know how it was possible that I tested positive because I'd used 5 days beforehand and shouldn't have tested positive at all. I can actually remember this person telling me this and hearing it in my mind. So okay, so you're pretty angry about it, that it seems, and now you're focusing on his anger and probably going to raise that again. Wow, so they drug tested you. Why did you let them? I wouldn't put that past me if having said that at one stage. Obviously, I wouldn't do that now, but again, that's not very helpful in that circumstance. Okay, and now you could lose your job. That's really catastrophizing the whole situation. You don't know that at this stage. You don't know what the situation is. Are you more concerned about being caught or using the drugs? Well, that will be revealed. Also, that's if he's more concerned about being caught, that's okay. That's how he feels. You don't have to agree with that. How do you feel and what will happen now is a more acceptable one. But the last one, okay, that sounds like bad luck and bad timing. You're showing empathy for him and a bit of understanding. How are you feeling about it? And what do you think we can do to resolve things? That's a much more open question and much more helpful question at the end of the day. And so we've got to be careful of how we open up our sessions because they set the tone for the rest of the session and the rest of the relationship.
And I guess practice would make perfect. The more we practice it and be engaged, the more we'll have an impact. So this is us closing the final session of motivational interviewing, but I think we might need to go back to it in the future. I'd still like to encourage everyone to visit the site, our webpage, and fill in your suggestions, which topics you would like to hear from us. Sean, I believe our next series is going to be understanding addiction.
Correct, and we'll start off with some of the myths of addiction and looking at some of the large population-sized data, which unfortunately is not available for South Africa. We've got some data, but we'll look at that. What are protective factors? And the 4 myths that we'll be looking at are drug use is a progressive disorder, which is strong data to say it's not, that it's lifelong, which it probably isn't lifelong at all for the majority of people, although for some people it might be, and that the drugs cause the actual addiction, which it takes more than just a drug to cause an addiction. You can get dependent on them, but you need more than that. And then we will look at recovery rates as well of people and what the chances are of them in certain circumstances. It's a presentation and set of data that I've presented many times before, and it's always sparked a lot of interest and controversy as well. So yeah, don't be scared of the controversy. Bring the controversy with you.
Yes, bring on the questions, the comments also, and we'll engage with you.
Sorry, one last comment. If people have practical questions in their day-to-day practice, please bring them to these sessions. I'm willing to disrupt any planned session to talk about actual what's happening on the ground, and to bring data along with it. Obviously, it helps if you pre-put it on the website, but even if you just bring it to the session, feel free to start off by saying, I've got a question.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, guys. I've also attached a document around understanding motivational interviewing to assist with reflecting on this session. So I guess we'll see you again on the 14th of September for our next session. Enjoy the rest of your day.